This next video follows on from part 2 of creating the anagram. Sounds like I'm actually trying to say a few different anagrams of it, or a Ragaman game. So what it is we're going to be creating the CSS file to basically help us display this web page like this. Obviously the content that actually goes into it we're going to ignore, but obviously we've got our key things. We've got two buttons which we can set to basically 50% each, and they've got a hover over top of them so that they can change colour. And then we've got a div tag with a bit of a border that has a little form and a button inside it that we can enter in words into, and we'll go and add the word onto the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to first go back into Dreamweaver and create a new CSS file. So we go File, New. This time we want basically blank CSS file. Let's save this. We're going to call this Ragaman. It's just an anagram of anagram. And we're going to call it default.css because it's our default CSS page. So from this, what we need to do is actually add in some of our options for our CSS styles. We can use the menus on the side, in the properties, to add in new properties. So I want to add in class, button, and then go through this and choose my properties, like my background color, its position, its all the details, where it's going to go, its height and width. You can type them in there, or we can sort of just type them straight on in. Generally find it, once you know a few of them, often a bit easier to actually just sort of type in. I'm not going to worry about sort of typing them in. I'm just going to copy and paste and then explain these and what they do. So the first part is what we have is our buttons. We set the background color to F00, F being first one being red, then green, and then blue. 0 meaning there's no instance of it, F being full blown. Basically the top value of 15. It's a hexadecimal number. So this basically will put to something that is entirely red position relative, so where this code gets placed on the web page, it goes in relative to other things around rather than absolute position, which you'd force it to be in an exact location. We've got a height of 50 pixels and a width of 50% of the object that it's going to be placed inside. In this case it's going to be the window, so it'll be 50% of the window. We're going to align the text in the center, vertically align the text in the middle, float it generally on the left hand side of the page, and change the line height a bit as well to say 50 pixels. What we're going to do is also do a similar thing, button, and we're going to add semicolon and hover. So this is when you hover the mouse over top of it. Only change for this one is that we're going to add triple F, so basically this means make it white. Now we're going to, by default, links are generally blue, but that doesn't fit in with the theme that we're going to use. So we're going to change them. So we're going to make a normal link white with no sort of text decoration, but we could make it bold, do other things as well. If it's active, we're going to make it black, so when the link is working. If you visited it, we're just going to make it white as well, and if you hover over it, it's going to be black. And then we're going to set some information for the body. So note this one and the A-links. They're basically normal tags that exist in HTML. So they apply to basically all the entries that we're going to use. So body, open curly bracket and then close. What we have is the background color. So this is the entire page is going to be grey. If we wanted to change the entire text font for the entire page, we could add it inside the body tag as well. Now, what we can do is we go and work on our div tags, or the information for our different pieces of content and what these different sections of the page we want them to look like and where we want them to go. So I've got one option for adding a word, which is going to be position absolute, so exactly where I want on the page. It's got to be 100 pixels high, 30% of the width of the page, or the section that's been put in. From the left hand side of the screen, it's going to be 35% of the way across. So if you think about 35% plus the 30 plus 35% on the right is going to give us 100% in total. So you can force it to be certain sizes. The top is going to be 150 pixels from the top of the page. The text alignment is going to be center. It's going to have a solid border that's 5 pixels wide, that's red, and it's going to have triple F background, which is white. So that's for our add word box. So in the example we looked at, that's this box right here in the middle of the page. The other box is basically our making an anagram box. Obviously we could, in theory, make it more complicated and put those on the one page, but for this one we're not going to. But we will add all the information we need into the one CSS file. So CSS files can actually get quite complicated, the more sort of layout sections you've got, but remember each page could in theory have its own CSS, but that's generally bad practice. You want to have them in one place so that any changes you make get applied to the entire site. So we've got our guess word div tag. It's got its absolute size. This time it's got a height of 300 pixels. Pretty much everything else remains the same though. That will complete our CSS file, and that's going to complete this video for the CSS. Part 4 will actually go through making our basic HTML page, which will then actually get it to go and do some work.